today. I think this is going to be um, a really great topic of just like how we can take personal experiences in our lives and kind of shape that into or shape our work through that. But yeah, anyway, Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to do a question of like, what is a lesson or something that you've learned like throughout your career that has changed the way that you view business, that you view life, and just from like viewing your work and just like knowing you are very well traveled with your work. Is there something kind of gonna tailor this question for you? Is there something that you have picked up from like all these different cultures that you have been able to witness and be a part of as you take these portraitures of people? Has there been something that's just like you've taken from these different cultures over the years?
Oh, just so many. It's really difficult to. I mean, every trip or everywhere we go,
Mm,
whether that's next door or to the other side of the world, there is always something that you can be taught, right? Um,
yeah.
so I think having humility will breed empathy. So I think for photographers, even entrepreneurs, to be able to be empathetic with another form of the human race and another part of the human culture and another part of society, whether they are other business people, other creatives, or other cultures, subcultures that maybe you're not so familiar with, to garner that empathy through just kindness, compassion, but traveling, humble, being able to show humility with yourself and with others. I think that's my biggest lesson I've learned just by growing older, actually, and just by gaining experience with life more than really everything else. I mean, I love doing having business ventures, and I love obviously photography and travel and stuff. But it's above all of that is the people that you become involved with along the way, and whether that's someone in front of my camera lens who I never met in my life, or I'm learning more about in order to take their photo, or it's my wife, right? Or
Mm,
it's a member of staff or a colleague or a business partner, whatever it might be. If you come from that place of, I guess it stems from wisdom, just through being 42 years old now, and not knowing many things, but having learned through failing, and hopefully hopefully giving myself freedom to be humble with that. I think that breeds, it just goes into so much more when you're trying to be a better professional, better artist, better person generally. So yeah, a bit of a long-winded answer. It's difficult to really narrow it down to one kind of thing, but
right.
I learn something every day, and through these ventures and through these travels of my passion of photography, and that's really what it's all about. It's the photography is kind of third on the list. First and second is the people I meet who I take photos of, and the second are the people I take photos with, and third becomes the photography. So in order to kind of get that good photographic experience and those good final artistic, I guess, products, um, yeah, I have to be able
Yeah.
to be empathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something that like you mentioned like that has come with age of just like you're growing older. Like I'm sure like for me in my 20s, I was not as humble as I am now. I was not uh I had a lot of like well, I know how to do this, and I'm just gonna go out here and I know this, and I'm not really like, oh, I wasn't open as much as I am now to learning from anyone and everyone. I have 3 kids. They're 4, 6, and 9, and like being a parent has also taught me to be humble. And there's so many things that learn from them just by watching them interact, and just like the curiosity of a 4-year old in nature. I'm just like, this, like, I need to slow down.
Mm,
I need
yeah,
to just sit here and like chase a little pill bug for 5 minutes and see where it's going.
yeah.
And yeah, like that, that has come with age and wisdom for myself as well, of like being able to sit with people and to
Mm,
come into a new space with an open mind of like, okay, like maybe not the mindset of I'm going to learn something here, but being open to learning just differences from, like you said, from across the world, meeting someone who, you know, you never would have crossed paths otherwise, to uh, you know, talking to my wife, and then like learning more about each other every year that we're married. Like you're always learning.
yeah, and I think if we're aware of that, I mean, it comes into, I don't want to get too esoteric or deep, but the being mindful of that and knowing that those 5 minutes with chasing a kid around, those are the moments of beauty in life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to go and put food on the table, which means we have to work, and we want to have a purpose, and we want to do this, and we want to do that. It's easy to get caught up with that. And I think for me anyway, and everyone's different, but for me, getting out of my comfort zone, getting out of my little bubble, which means traveling and challenging myself with a camera, that allows me to find that fulfillment and to find those real imitable moments where it's that lies the real beauty and the real happiness. So I think just knowing, just being mindful and knowing that, look, in 100 years time, no one's going to know who you are, right? No one's
Right.
going to remember.
Oh
Your
yeah.
kids won't, and your grandkids won't, because your great grandkids won't know who you are, right? It's just that, if you think like that, nothing really. There's no point getting too easy to say. There's no point getting too wound up about anything, because nothing like this, even if you believe in God or don't believe in God, I think really matters as much as we make it out to be, and as much as we identify with these thoughts that we have in our head about, I want to be important and I want to make money and I want this, and endless desires, right? So I think for me anyway, knowing that, being mindful of that, and seeking out exactly those moments that you talked about, whether you have children or not, or animals, or parents or friends, all those beautiful little moments are really what matters, because nothing else actually does. So I
Yeah.
think sharing those types of moments with other people, and challenging myself to, I don't know, be in that empathetic mindset, really promotes better art for me, and better experiences.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit. How does that like correlate for you? How does being more empathetic and more open to other people, and being able to like put yourself in their shoes, and look through their eyes, like how does that translate into your photography work?
Well, it's really difficult, isn't it? It's so easy to say. You honestly don't know what anyone else on this planet is thinking, right? And you never
Right.
will. So it's so difficult to really understand what the other person is experiencing. I don't want to bring the election up, but the elections just happened, and half the
Right.
country in the US don't understand what the other half are thinking, and vice versa. And it's very difficult to get into, to find true empathy, right? So I think when it comes to the way I practice photography and the way I kind of seek out those moments, I have to know as much about them given within the given time, or logistical constraints that I have. And so there is, I've learned ways of doing that to the best I think of my ability. And if I can do that, if I can somehow relate to them, maybe not necessarily understand who they are, and what they've gone through, and what it's like to just be thrown in front of a camera with maybe not even having their photo ever taken before. It's just, you can't relate to that. It's so different to us that it's
Yeah.
impossible to relate to it. So again, like being empathetic towards that perspective, I think, okay, let's stop trying to, get into their heads, but at least understand that this is really alien to them, that this is difficult for them. Maybe they don't enjoy it, in which case, let's not continue. Maybe they are interested. Maybe there's some lost in translation. Maybe I need to give them more time. Maybe I need to show them some photos. Maybe I need to sit with them more. Maybe I need to learn their culture more, which is that's just an endless pursuit.
Right.
Once I kind of can and are able to do that, that that translates directly into a more comfortable human in front of my camera, and which again translates into a better portrait, a better photo. So it's all interlinked. So actually the work is really done at the top, really done ahead of time in putting that effort and time in with these people, and learning and being respectful of them, and showing dignity. Look, I'm in your country, I'm in your land, and 99.9% of the time I paying for a, a a number of hours or a number of days and a number of weeks with in your company, in
Hmm.
order so that I can achieve a selfish pursuit of getting a photograph, right? So if we can look at it from that perspective, that always translates into a more empathetic approach, right? A more kind of kind and respectful and compassionate approach, without kind of trying so hard to like get into their heads that much. I mean, it would be great, but you know, it's impossible. But so I think
Yeah.
providing that comfortable environment for them is important.
Yeah. And I love that you like differentiate between like trying to get into their head and just like sitting there with them, being
Yeah.
present, and just being there, kind of feeling what is it that they need right now. And like that's what makes me feel at ease whenever someone's just comfortable enough to sit there with me and to talk or not talk, or learn about me or ask questions, and like spending that little bit of time, like you said, on the front end before you even pick up your camera to take a portrait, and just getting to connect with your client, with your subject, instead of just like, all right, hey, how's it going, let's go
Yeah.
ahead and get started. Like, especially if they're not used to getting their photo taken or have ever had their photo taken. um, like that is, it's a hard thing. Like right now, uh, I'm like staring at my camera to make eye contact with you, even though you were down here,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
it is so foreign to most people to like look into the camera. Like a lot of
Mm.
times, whenever I'm taking photographs of kids, uh, like they're looking just off camera because like that's where my face is. I'm like trying to uh, trying to connect with them, and I have to remember like, oh yeah, I gotta like keep my eyesight like close to the lens, so that's where they're looking at. And I think we forget that sometimes whenever we show up to a photo shoot and just assume that our clients are, paid models, and that they do this all the time, and that they're ready to be photographed. And I think that is a huge thing that can benefit, like no matter what your niche is in photography, whatever you photograph, just spending that little bit of time to sit and make conversation, and just allow your clients to warm up to you, and to you to warm up to them as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what situation you're in, but I think that rule stands true, like you said, through all genres.
Mm,
But this is one reason I like film. It slows you. You get forced to slow down.
yeah.
And I think being technically proficient, I think there's this crossover when you go from, I guess, depends on how often you do it. Everyone's different, but if you to go from beginner to intermediate, or intermediate to professional advanced, there are these crossovers, and one of them is definitely, okay, I don't really have to think too much about the technical aspects of photography, which means I have so much more mental capacity to just be with these people and to
Yeah.
just spend time with them, actually active listen. to what they're talking about. So actually engage passively with them. That's why I like podcasting, right? There's just those types of conversations, and actively listening is very, very difficult to do, especially in a world of abundance and the digitized, just world of distraction, I guess. It's
Yeah.
very, very difficult to do, and that's why I think photography is, certainly portrait photography, is such a difficult thing to get right. And being able to just put the technical stuff aside for a little bit, so that you're comfortable with your settings, you're comfortable with just general principles of light and composition and how you want something done, so that you can then give yourself time with these people, and like you said, just sit with them. So I think there's no one answer fits all, but it's there is a progression here. And I think when I talked earlier about age, maybe it's not so much age, it's just experience. Like if I started this when I was 15, by 30 I would have been a similar, hopefully would have had a similar outlook and mindset. But I
Hmm.
started quite late, and again, everyone starts at a different pace and a different time. But I think with experience, as long as you're able to learn, then I think it's absolutely imperative to be able to take that away from your experiences.
Yeah. I think that is something that a lot of the newer photographers miss. And there, it's almost, I know that like our culture is very like that microwave society of just like, I want it now. I want to hit the 30-second button and have a
I
successful
like that
business.
analogy. That's
Yeah.
good. The
And it's just
microwave
like,
society.
I, I don't want to have to wait. I don't want to have to put in the time. I don't want to have to put in the effort, the 10,000 hours to become a master in your craft. Is like, I want to buy, like, do a course online, buy this template, whatever, and then buy these presets. Now I'm a photographer. And I think that's like, we see so many people who maybe they skyrocket and they're having a semi successful business, but then it crashes within 3 years. And it's just like, there's you don't really know what you're doing because you wanted it too quickly or tried to jump in too fast. And like you were saying about like getting the technical side of photography down to where you're not using that mental bandwidth to think about like, okay, well, if I'm in ISO 100, then my f-stop needs to be this. And it's just like, you walk into a room, you're like, okay, cool, yeah, f4, I'm on shooting some 400 ISO film. And it's like, you already know, like, okay, cool, I'm going to be this shutter speed. And like, you have that technical eye from years and many, many hours
Doing it
of doing
over and
it.
over, and
Yeah.
and failing over and over.
Yes, failing over. Like, failing is
Embrace
so
failure.
good. Yes.
It's so
I
good.
I am a recovering perfectionist. I'm a firstborn. I was like raised in the 90s of like, you know, perfection. You need to be, do this, obey authority, all of that. And I tried to do that. I tried to be perfect, and it was really hard for me to fail at things. And like, through years and wisdom and growing older, have learned failing is amazing. Like, failing is it is so good to fail. You learn so much when you fail at something if you're paying attention to what you did. That you learn a lot more from failing than just trying to be perfect all the time.
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think the real important point from that is to make sure that you do learn from failure. And it's, people talk about, oh, failure, embrace it, you learn from it. So, well, you still have to learn from it. Otherwise, it's a
Right.
futile exercise.
Yeah.
You're just going around in circles. It's the
Mhm.
definition of insanity. Keep doing the
Yeah.
same thing and expecting different results. So
Yeah.
I think there is a skill in that as well, and that comes from just knowing yourself and being aware of what does work and what doesn't work. There are a lot of failures that I've had that I haven't realized are failures until down the line. It can be a very complex and difficult kind of arena. So yeah, I was the same as you. You were talking about your upbringing. I used to suffer a lot from, and I didn't know this at the time when I was a child. Very
Yeah.
very anxious child, very like sweaty. I used to get like skin diseases because I was just sweat. I was very very on edge as a child, and then went into becoming a pilot. I don't know why, because being a pilot is just constant tests and exams and
Yeah.
pressure, and that just made it worse. And I wanted to be perfect and this, and so I feel that too. And I think photography has really allowed me to be imperfect, and the beauty in the imperfection, as long as there's intent behind it,
Hmm.
is magnificent. It's so wonderful to experience, to have that freedom. That's what it's all about: freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of ideas, freedom of creativity, freedom of just doing what you want. There's so many gatekeepers and limiting beliefs, and so many kind of labels surrounding photography, and competition where there doesn't need to be competition. There's
Yeah.
plenty to go around, guys. Don't worry. Just find your own thing, do it
Yeah.
until you screw up so many times that you stop screwing up as much. That's basically it, right? And just try
Yeah.
and learn to enjoy that process. I think there's so much enjoyment in that process. Before you know it, you're 70 years old, you're still wanting to be perfect, and you realize you can't be, and then
Mhm.
it's too late. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And then you've just lived an anxious life and feeling like a failure. Because
Mm,
that's how I used to be all the time. I always felt like I was coming up short on everything, and I wouldn't celebrate the wins. Like if I, booked my highest package, or if I was able to like figure out my scheduling to where I can schedule free time and family time and not
yeah.
just constantly get booked. And like those little wins, I was not celebrating those things because it was just like, all right, no, no, that's like it should be that way. Like that's what, yeah. It. I tried to do this. I did it. That's cool. Let's move on. And like taking that time to sit there and celebrate and just be like, hey, like you just booked out this entire month. You don't have to worry about bringing in anything else for the rest of the year. Like, sit there, celebrate that. Like, this is a good thing. And it has been like slowing down has been just a life changer for me. I also, like you mentioned, you shoot film. I also shoot film, and getting into that, or like back into film probably about 5 years ago,
Mm.
really retrained my brain from the just constant click, 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 click of digital,
Spray and pray.
spray and pray, and just getting a card with thousands of images on it, to
Yeah.
holding a camera with 10 frames. I've got 10 frames in my Bronica, and
Nine of which probably
right.
not great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that one's got like a hairpin shutter
Yeah. Yeah.
too. So sometimes I'm like
Nice.
cranking it, my finger
Yeah.
hits it. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's another one.
Boom.
That's
That's
one
10
of
bucks.
that's I know. Yeah, that's $10 of a blurry foot on the ground.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but like it has taught me so much to just like sit and breathe and connect a little bit more with the person in front of my camera, instead of, hey, why don't you do this? Click, click, click. All right, cool. Over here, go stand in front of this tree. Cool, cool, cool. And then run over here. And like, it's, I think it has become a better experience for my clients as well, to feel like they are being seen, instead of just they are a puppet or just something that I'm moving around and taking photos of, but to be seen in front of the camera. Uh, and that is transitioned into my digital work too, where I'm not spraying and praying. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna set up this and I'm gonna take one photo, maybe three, just like a quick little. but
Yep.
but yeah, like that pausing and slowing down can really just open up creativity too. in your mind, and open up times that you can be a little bit more empathetic with those who are in front of your camera.
I think it's important as well to make it clear to people. Certainly, some of my students and people that kind of want to see how maybe I do things or maybe other photographers do things. A lot of the time, I don't have the answers. Right? I still that's where that comfortable that comfort in uncomfort. Like if I have
Hmm.
a model or someone or I don't know what to call. I don't know how to label people in front of my camera. Subjects, models, like the
Yeah,
person I'm taking a
subject
photo of, right?
always
Subject.
subject always sounds wrong to me. I'm like,
It
you're
does,
not
doesn't
like,
it?
it's not like a product. You're not a
No,
subject. And but yeah, the
you
person.
know what I mean. Yeah. Um, have them, to be able to like have them there, and you not knowing what you're going to do next. Like, oh, I've got to be creative on the spot. Like the first idea I had didn't work, and the second idea didn't have work, and I'm running out of time, and maybe they're feeling uncomfortable and like they don't know what's going on in your head, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's all of that we've talked about is great, but sometimes you really don't know what you're doing, and that's okay. Like to be able to, if you're able to still have that mindful approach, be able to be just sit there for 10 seconds and think to yourself, okay, I actually don't know what I'm going to do next. What can I do about that? Right? It's okay to be like that. And I think some people watch other people and think, oh, they know what they're doing all the time. How do they, where do they get these ideas from? And that space to be creative is a space, but the creativity doesn't just always come naturally. Certainly it doesn't for me. I have to like consciously think about being creative a lot of the time,
yeah,
especially when someone's in front of me and I have to think quite quickly. Something always comes up. And I think just having that slower approach and understanding that it's okay, I don't have all the answers, but I'll find them. And if I don't, I don't. And it's okay. Again, it's
yeah,
okay to fail like that or treat it as a failure, and then you learn from that. So maybe what can we do differently next time? And all of that's okay.
yeah, yeah. And being okay with that failure, because so many times I'm in the middle of a shoot and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do next? And I have become I used to be just like super fast because I felt like, oh, they're paying for my time,
Yeah.
and I need to be taking photos the entire hour that we're here, and I have become gotten to a better place where I can sit there and even be like, hey, I'm gonna take like a minute to just figure out our next spot. Y'all just
Yeah.
grab a water or something, or walk around with me, see if anything jumps out to you, and like being vulnerable enough to say, I don't
Be
exactly know
honest.
what's going
Yeah.
next,
Yeah.
but I'm here, and I'm putting effort into it, and I'm going to like creativity sparks in the strangest times, and sometimes you're in the middle of something, you're like, oh, I just saw the light hit this over here, that's where we're going next, I know. But like having that vulnerability to do that, and also the vulnerability to be okay whenever it doesn't go well, and, and I'm just like, I have this idea, and then I'm like, well, that didn't turn out the way I was thinking of, let's go do
Yeah.
something else, and
Which
just
is a
being honest
lot.
with them. Yeah.
A lot of the time. And now I'm not preaching. I'm not saying people should come into a shoot without any plan and just kind of wing it. But
Yes.
come in with a plan, a lot of the time those plans don't work the way you thought they would, or the person, especially if you haven't met them, the person might not quite fit the idea that you had, or maybe they're not comfortable with it. There's so many things that can go wrong or not fit into the plan. And so, yeah, I would having being open and honest, say, look, I had these plans, but they didn't quite work, and I'm not loving them that much. It's not you, it's just me, and I just need a few minutes to have a think about this. Maybe
Yeah.
can you help me as well? Like, what would you like to do? And much more of a collaboration and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's easier said than done, but it's important to try and learn from those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and like with that, and like slowing down and being vulnerable, like is that like, because whenever I look at your photos, like your portraits, uh, there's so much story in them, and so much for my mind to just kind of like fill in, uh, like a backstory of this person that I don't know, and it's just like there's a lot into it. Is there is there something that you do, or a mindset that you have going into taking a portrait of someone to be able to tell more story in just like a single frame than having like a series of different things to act out the story that you're trying to tell?
Great question. I think it's really difficult. I don't believe in I don't believe in being able to tell a story with a single frame. I think that's left for movies, and even films and moving pictures are it's very difficult to tell a full and comprehensive story, right?
Yeah.
You need to live this life with them to really understand what their story is. So I think what I try and do is provide context, two things, context, and that's why I love environmental portraiture, because I can visually provide a little bit of context in their own environment by just essentially making the composition wider,
Hmm.
and putting them in a location that might have elements within that frame that provides context as to who they are, where they're from, what they're doing. I love that type of, I guess, storytelling, but it's very easily done, of course. But when it comes to kind of the more intimate portraits, the second thing I want to try and portray is just curiosity. I think the beauty in art, any art, photography as well, is to be able to imbue curiosity in the viewer. Now, if you can stop someone, and nowadays we try and stop them with their scrolling, right? If someone can stop
Right.
scrolling and land on your photo, but if you're in a gallery and you're walking past, oh, that's nice, and then there's one that stops, go, oh, what is that? Not necessarily, oh, that's amazing or that's not so amazing. Just like something that sparks curiosity in whoever's seeing my photos, as in, okay, what do I think their story is? I don't need to tell everyone the story of these people. You fill in those blanks the way you interpret that image, you interpret that photo, and you interpret that situation with the aesthetics or whatever it might be. If you're a technical viewer, you're going to look at lighting, composition, and all of the technical aspects of photography. If you're more of an emotive viewer, then you're going to look at expressions and how it makes you feel. So for me, I'm a bit of both. I really want people to look at my photos and go, okay, that looks nice. I always want my photos to look nice, but I really want to spark curiosity in that viewer, and for them to ask, who is this? Or
Yeah.
where are they from? And if I can answer that, great. But if 99% of the time I'm not going to be there to answer those questions, in which case I want people to try and fill in those blanks and tell themselves their own story of what they think this person or these people are about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And like, and that's how I feel like great portraiture is like stopping someone in their tracks. and and having that question of like, oh wait, like almost like that dog like head tilt of like, huh, wait, something is something's a little bit different. This is not just like everything else. And I think
Yeah.
like that's how a really great photographers stand out in any different genre is they're different. They're not just like everyone else. They're not doing the cookie cutter poses. They're not doing the cookie cutter editing and everything like everyone else. It's something different, something, your secret sauce, your whatever it is that makes you different, a different photographer than Joe down the road, who also has the same camera and same lighting gear and all that kind of stuff, like
But people want to
that
know
kind of.
how you get that secret sauce, and I searched for
Yeah.
years. Like, what I need to be unique. What is my thing, and how do I have a unique style and more importantly, a unique voice?
Hmm.
Um, and actually, I learned that again, it's still a pursuit. I'm nowhere near where I want to be in terms of great portrait photographers are great photographers in telling those types of stories, and that's the beauty of it. There's always room to grow and evolution. But I think knowing myself better is, people want that secret source, but actually that secret source comes from you. You are the only version of you on this planet.
Yeah.
So the only way you're going to find that secret source is by being you and expressing you within your artwork or whatever you might do. But in order to do that, you really need to know yourself. So all of this starts with you and an internal health and internal knowledge, internal awareness, before you can start really expressing who you are and putting your touch on things and your style on things and your voice on things. So that's something I've really learned. It's probably a better answer for the first question you asked me, but that's something I've really learned to be okay with and not try and be like someone else. Yeah, obviously inspirations are mandatory in my opinion when it comes to photography and art. We
Yeah.
have to be able to kind of know what we like, know what we don't like, learn from those and take those little elements, because I don't believe anymore in originality when it comes to photography, because we grow up from the age of 0 having influences on our life. So there's no such thing as being original, right? We have influences from the moment we're born all the
Yeah.
way up to the moment we start doing photography. And so having those inspirations subconsciously or consciously affect how we output and how we produce work. I think that's absolutely fantastic. But knowing yourself is where you really put your tiny little touch on it, right? And that's something I think I've got better with over the last few years. It's difficult, right? It's really difficult, but um,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's almost um, like while you were saying that, I was picturing like a painter with, I don't even know the terminology, but like that plate that you put all the little daubs of different colored paints on
oil
there and
paint
like
on, yeah.
mix them together and all that, is just like those are the different inspirations, those are the different photographers that you're like you see and you're just like, oh man, like I love Erica and Lanny Mann, and like they're this color over here, and like you're just like mixing different aspects of different photographers and styles and stuff together to make you, and like what speaks to you, and then that's your secret sauce, is the inspiration from everyone else. You're not trying to imitate them, you're not trying to copy them. It's like you see that they did something really great, and then you're like, okay, I want to learn from them to do that thing, but then you have your own spin on it. And
Mm,
like that is like, I love that you mentioned that about just like to find that secret sauce is really to find yourself and to know who you are, which is not an easy task and definitely comes with those hours and years like we talked about. There's no secret microwave button to just like know yourself in 2 days. Uh, but yeah, like the hours, the years, the doing this work over and over again will just kind of like form you into you if you're open to it.
yeah, I think there was that quote. I'm gonna butcher it, but it was a Mark Twain quote. I think to thine oneself be true, and to be honest with yourself and dig deeper into finding out. Okay, who am I? What am I doing? And we can throw cliches like purpose and fulfillment and goals and all of that stuff. But what is the sense? What am I doing photography for? What am
Yeah.
I doing this for? What do I like? What do I don't like? What am I comfortable doing? What do I have time to do? What do I have a budget to do, etc., etc.? Like just kind of brain dumping all of that on paper, just starting to kind of be honest with yourself and trying to know who you really are and what you're trying to get out of this. I think from that process, and like you said, over years of just painful years of not lying to yourself, not trying to chase status, not trying to chase other artists, not trying to chase validation or follows, or just being integral to thyself. I think is okay. Look, we may be getting a little bit pretentious here, but I think it's really, really important to try and be the best version of yourself, and therefore the best photographer
Yeah.
that you can be. So I don't think there's any kind of weakness in that at all. Quite the opposite.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. My business name is All Heart Photography. One, because I wanted like my clients to know that I put my heart, my all of my heart into my work, but also as a reminder to myself for those days that I'm just like not feeling it. Because sometimes
Mm.
you just don't feel it,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
just like, I got another photo shoot. Okay, yeah, I probably overbooked myself. But like
Mm.
you get there and like that is a reminder to myself, like, no, they have you for the next hour and a half. Put all of your heart into this. Like you can be tired and you can be apathetic and everything after this, but like show up for them and show up for the photography. Uh, so no, I love that. I love where this conversation has gone, Matt. This has been so fun. Before we kind of like wrap up and you can let everyone know like where to find you online and all that kind of stuff. There is a question that I like to do where we talk about what we're loving this week, and it can be literally anything like a book, TV show, movie, food, whatever. What are you loving this week?
Yeah, I had to think long and hard about this question. This is one that you sent to me ahead of time. Okay, I I'll go with coffee. I mean, my other passion. Coffee gets such a bad rap, and my other passion in life, photography, and then coffee. And I'm
Yeah.
very, very fortunate to have been able to go through accreditations and just courses and workshops, and now I'm very fortunate to have my own cafe and create, put some art into coffee. And I think I've struggled recently to separate or to give it the attention I deserve in the way I give photography and business and just daily grind stuff.
Hmm.
And this week I've really we've done a lot of tasting, and we're creating a new menu, and just kind of getting back into just, again, slowing down and just enjoying a cup of coffee. And there's
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. Being able to, I love waking up in the mornings. We have 4 dogs, so we wake up in the mornings. We live in Bali, so
Yeah.
it's generally the sun's out and the birds are singing, and we can come downstairs and make that first coffee of the day. And I'm absolutely loving that right now, and just enjoying the 5 minutes it takes to make one espresso. And yeah, so
Yes.
that's really what I'm loving right now.
Yeah, I love that. And like, yeah, coffee gets a bad rep, but like good coffee is so good. It is like that
Enjoyable.
that
Mm.
time like I could have a little like Mr. Coffee or a Keurig or something to make my coffee in the morning, but I enjoy grinding the beans.
Hmm.
I enjoy, filling up my French
Smell.
press and
Yeah.
popping the kettle on there and just like the whole process. It does take a good 5 minutes to make a cup of coffee, but it just that process and everything. It just that's part of it for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that. And yeah, I checked out I saw it was like your cafe was linked in your Instagram,
Oh
and I
yeah,
checked
yeah,
it out.
yeah.
I was like, oh man, I want to go to that that
Yeah,
cafe. It looks
come.
amazing. I
Yeah,
will.
come
Yes.
anytime.
Yeah. But awesome. Let's see. I'm also loving coffee this week. I I'm loving the New York Times game Wordle. I never really got into this.
Okay.
I know it was like
Yep.
super huge in like I don't know 2020, 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but recently I had downloaded it maybe a few months ago just because I wanted something that wasn't just like doom scrolling on TikTok or
Hmm.
something. I wanted something that like I could pick this up. It's a little, brain teaser. I'm trying to figure out a word. And I have recently started doing that every evening, like at bedtime with my 9-year-old. And that is something that he is just like, can we do the wordle now? Can you come in here and like we try and figure out the word together, and like we love doing the connections and strands and all the different games that they have. But like that has been something that I'm really loving because it's like it's stimulating for the brain, but it's also like building this relationship between me and my son, uh, and
That's nice.
it's really fun, and it's good learning for
Yeah.
him too, because he's like, I didn't know that that was a word, and like sometimes I'm like, I also didn't know that was a word. Let's look that up and see what it means.
And anything's better than doom scrolling on TikTok. Do you
Yes.
even? I thought TikTok was banned in America.
They talked about it. They keep talking about it. There was something that I think the Senate passed, but but Congress has not passed it
Okay,
yet. So we still have it for now. Who
maybe it'll be
knows?
different now next year.
Maybe. Yeah, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, well, Matt, this has been like a delight. I have really enjoyed our conversation. Where can people find you online? Follow your photography, check out your cafe, all the kinds of things.
Yeah, I think probably Instagram's the best place to go for that. So my Instagram username is Matty J with an underscore in there. So MATTYJ underscore AY. It's a weird one, but my name wasn't available, and I don't know. It
Yeah,
just is what it is.
yeah,
But that's my username across basically all social media. So if you go into YouTube, you can find me there. If you go into TikTok, we do post on there, but I never use it. The same with Threads and X. So all the same username. And on there, links to my website where you can obviously see my portfolio and more about me and stuff like that. So yeah, probably
awesome.
best place just to head to Instagram and go from there.
Cool, cool. Oh, and also I want to plug this because I'd also checked out your the Mood podcast.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I really like your format and just like the conversations that you have on your podcast. So I'll have a link to your website, Instagram, and also the Mood podcast for the listeners to check out too.
appreciate it. Thanks very much, and thanks for having me. It's been a fun conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Good, good. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this too. Thanks for being here, and thanks for joining us, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Cool. We're good. It looks like